Good morning students, welcome back to the course on engineering mechanics for GATE online classes conducted by Department of Mechanical Engineering, Government College of Technology, Coimbatore. Today we are going to study trusses. Trusses is our second chapter, and it is one of the most important chapter in engineering mechanics because almost out of 4 marks, 3 mark questions are coming from this section only. Sometime all 4 mark questions will come from the trusses, right? So what are the trusses? So as you can see here, this roof truss you must have seen in many homes, right? So normally we are having this triangular shape thing above our homes, right? That is called roof trusses, right? So what is the definition? A truss is a structure that consists of 2 force members only, where the members are organized so that the assemblage as a whole behave as a single object and all the forces acts only over pin joints. So what is in simple language we can say that truss is assemblage of all the two force members. So all these members, suppose if this is a member from A point to B point, it is only a 2 force member, right? So whichever member you will take here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, all these are 2 force members, and all these members are connected with pin joint, right? So we know the one property already from previous class, that pin joint will not transfer bending and moment, it will transfer only force, right? So, and one more thing, all the forces acts only over the pin joints. So in the trusses problem, all the forces that are going to act will be acting over these joints, right? Like this, or maybe like this, right? So it won't act like this, okay? Then it is not called truss, right? Then it is a different system that we study in kinematics of machine, right? Or dynamics of machine. But in engineering mechanics, we are going to study only forces where they are acting at the joints, right? Okay. So before going into the trusses, we have to understand what are tie and strut. Okay, as I have seen, you can see here, these two are diagrams. First one is tie. Tie is a 2 force members that is always in tension, right? As you can see here, this force and this force, it is trying to elongate the bar, right? And we are having only 2 forces here, 1 and 2. That's why it is called 2 force member. So it is called tie, right? And what is strut? Strut is 2 force member that is always in compression, right? As you can see here, these 2 forces are here, and these 2 forces are trying to compress the strut, right? So a truss is made of tie and strut. So in this truss, some 2 bar members will be in tension and some 2 bar members will be in compression. So some 2 bar member will act like a tie, some 2 bar members will act like a strut, right? So this is the truss. Now let's move to second slide. So normally trusses are of 2 types, imperfect and perfect. So what is the meaning of imperfect and perfect? First we will see perfect trusses that we are going to analyze in this chapter. We will not go into imperfect trusses, right? But as a definition we should know what is imperfect trusses. So what are the perfect trusses first, which follow this equation. So what does this equation mean? This equation means that the degree of freedom of that structure should be 0. If any truss, any structure is complying with this equation in which we have m plus 3 is equal to 2j. What is m? Number of members, and j is number of joints. So what is the member? So these are called members, right? And these points are called joints, right? So m is number of members, j is number of joints. If m plus 3 is equal to 2j, that truss is called perfect truss. And what is the meaning of m plus 3 is equal to 2j? The meaning is that degree of freedom of that structure will be equal to 0. Okay, so it won't be greater than 0, it won't be less than 0, right? So it should follow only this term, and it will follow this degree of freedom is equal to 0 when we have m plus 3 is equal to 2j, right? So these are the perfect trusses. Now we will see imperfect trusses. In imperfect truss we have under rigid and over rigid. What is under rigid? In which we have degree of freedom more than 0, right? So here it will follow m plus 3 less than 2j, right? So here m plus 3 is equal to 2j, here m plus 3 less than 2j, and for this we will have degree of freedom more than 0, means it can move, it is called as collapsible. Suppose any truss is having and it is following this equation, then what will happen? That truss, it will collapse, it won't sustain, right? It will be there, as soon as you will put a little pressure it will collapse, right? That is called under rigid collapsible truss, right? What is the meaning of over rigid? In over rigid, the meaning is that number of constraints over the truss will be too much, and if number of constraints are more, in that case m plus 3 will become more than 2j, right? If m plus 3 and become more than 2j, then degree of freedom will be negative. So whenever we have degree of freedom as negative, then it is called structure, right? And it is too rigid structure. Okay, it is called indeterminate also, right? So these are the types of trusses, right? You have to remember only this formula, m plus 3 is equal to 2j. In many objective type questions, they are asking question from this formula only. Whether this truss is perfect, imperfect, under rigid or over rigid, based on these three formulas we will know, right? Now let us move to next slide. Method of joints. So to solve trusses we are having two formulas, two methods. One method is method of joints, other method is method of section, right? So now we will see method of joint. So in method of joints what happens? Suppose we have this truss, right, and it is, suppose it is simply supported, okay, and in this truss if we want to apply method of joints to find out any force anywhere, then we have to follow these steps. First step is select a joint. So we have to select a joint. Suppose we are selecting this joint here, suppose. So we will just select this point here, okay, you just take it out, you just take this pin out and make a free body diagram of that, right? The second step is an imaginary cut is made around a joint that has two less unknown forces, right? Or just take out the pin itself. So what I did, I took this pin out, okay, I cut it from here, okay, I just made a cut and I took out this pin, right, separately, okay. Now make free body diagram of the section for this joint, okay. Now we have to make free body diagram of this. So because this pin is connected with 1, 2 and 3 bars, so it will be experiencing 3 forces, okay, and the direction will be this one and this one, right? So you can assume any direction, right? But finally when you get the answer, you will get positive or negative. Suppose you found out this force Fa in this direction, and finally when you solve it, you find that Fa is coming negative. If Fa is coming negative, the meaning is that the force is in reverse direction, right? So force will be in reverse direction. So that's how you will find the direction, okay. The next is resolving the forces. So here in place of resolving the forces, you can use Lami's theorem, okay, Lami's theorem or sine law, okay, because we all know normally whenever we will take pin, mostly only 3 members will be connected. Because only 3 members are connected, then we will have 3 forces, and if we have 3 forces we can use sine law to solve that problem, okay. If we have more than 3 forces, suppose as you can see here, at this point we have more than 3 forces, like 1, 2, 3, 4. In this case you have to resolve the forces, right? So that also we have seen in first unit, how to resolve the forces. In resolve the forces means you have to take component in x and y direction. You have to find out sigma fx is equal to 0 and sigma fy is equal to 0, and then because of with the help of these two equation you have to solve the problem, right? Okay, so the final thing is repeat first 4 steps with another joint. So because suppose we are going to find out this reaction here, okay, so to find out this reaction, suppose we have been given a force here P. So this, suppose this force P is given, so length is L everywhere, okay, and we have to find out this reaction RA, right, and RB. So how you are going to solve it? First you are going to take this point P separately, okay, right, and then you will resolve the forces. You will find out some forces like Fa or any other force. Then with the help of that force you have to find out Ra, and when you take Ra you have to take this joint separate, okay, you take this point separately and all the forces whatever are acting you have to make free body diagram of that, okay. This is point A, right. So you have to just repeat these 4 steps when you are going to solve truss problem, right. So now we will solve one problem by ourselves, then only we will know. Okay, let us move to next slide. So consider a truss PQR loaded at P with a force F as shown in figure. The tension in the member QR is, so what we need to find? Tension in this member, right, and what is given? Given is the force this with the force F. This point P is loaded with force F. So in GATE normally you will find very easy questions, right, but you have to use little bit of concept, okay. So in GATE they cannot give a big question, a lengthy question for which you have to spend more time. They will give more of a conceptual question. So this is a small question, but it is more like a, you have to follow concept properly, right, then only you can solve this question, right. So as I told you, first thing what we are going to do, we will take this point, okay. Why we are taking this point? Because already a known quantity is a quantity is known, a force is already known at this point, right. So if you take this point separately and you will make free body diagram of point P, how it will come? Okay, this F force is acting here, and some force will be acting because of this PQ. Suppose that is acting in upward direction. I am just assuming it, and one force will be acting at PR. That will be in this direction. So we can say this force as FQP, this force as FRP. So what is the meaning of QP? Q to P, right. From Q to P, if you move, then a force will be there that is acting over this pin joint P, right, in upward direction, right. So now you can see a structure, you can see this problem like a Lami's theorem problem, right. We can solve it with the help of sine law or Lami's theorem, right. So how we are going to solve? We know this angle, we know this angle, and we know these angles. All the angles we know, and we will simply apply Lami's theorem, right. So what is this angle? This angle we can find out from the diagram itself. It is 45, it is 30. 45 and 30 is 75, right. And if you minus one out of 180, if you subtract 45 plus 30, you will get some value. That will be the angle between them, right. So this angle will be equal to 180 minus 75. And how much it will be? 105. 105. Okay. Now we have to find out all these angles, these angles and these angles, right. So how to find out this angle? So let me make this diagram again. We know this angle 30. Okay. So if this angle is 30, this angle will also become 30. This is 90. right? So obviously this angle comes as 90 plus 30, that is equal to 120. Okay. Now we have to find out this angle, this angle. How to find out this angle? Same way. And this angle will come, it is 45, and this will be equal to 90 plus 45, right? So it will be 135. So in the examination you don't have to make diagrams again and again. In a single diagram you should be able to solve. Then only you can solve these type of problems as fast as possible, right? So now we will solve this problem with the help of sine law. F divided by the angle 105, sine of the angle 105 is equal to FRP divided by sine of the angle 135. Why? Because in front of this force we have this angle 135. In front of FQP we have angle 120. So now we need to solve it, and we need to find out either FRP or QP, right? Either tension in PR or RP link or tension in QP link. One is enough. We don't have to find out both FRP and FQP, right? Why? Because finally we have to reach this link. We need to come at this QR. We can come at QR through R or through Q. It doesn't matter. We have to just come to the QR link, right? How we will come? First we will find out tension here. Then we will make free body diagram of the point R, right? So that's how we are going to do it. So I have already solved this problem. So I will be simply writing it now. I will simply write what will be FRP, because we know only F, right? So F divided by sine 105 into sine 135. Okay. So we found out FRP here, right? Now we have to make free body diagram of R. So I will take this pin out, okay. I will keep it here. Suppose this is a pin R. Okay. Now I will make free body diagram of R. So one force will be like this. This will be reaction force, obviously, right? We can say simply R, right? And you can see it is simply supported. And how I got to know that it is simply supported? There are the rollers here. Okay. In the diagram you can see rollers. So whenever we have rollers, we will have only one force in upward direction. We cannot have this force or this force separately acting at the joint, right? So we will have only this force R, right? That is acting upward. One force will be acting because of PR, right? That we already found out. This one, FRP. Now I will write it FPR. Okay, obviously it is again action and reaction. Whatever force you are acting is acting at the point P, that will be in reverse of direction of what force is acting at R. Suppose the force is acting at P, it is PRP, then the force acting at R will be reverse direction, right? That will be PR. That's why I made it in reverse direction, and here I made it in this upward direction, right? So these forces are done. Now we have to find out force in QR, that we have to find out, that they are asking in question itself. Okay, you assume that it is in this direction, right? So this is FQR, and that's what we have to find out to solve the numerical. Again we are going to apply Lami's theorem. Again we are going to apply sine law here, right? So I will be rubbing off this. You just write it down. If you have not wrote it down, you have to write this down. This expression is more important, right? It should be available. Other things I will rub off. right? This also not needed now. I will rub it off. Okay, so I have made free body diagram of the point R. Okay, and I am going to apply Lami's theorem at point R. Okay, so I will just rearrange all these forces. This is R. I will take this force at top, right? Because that force is this force, whether it is acting like this or it is acting like this, it is same thing, right? There is no difference between them. I will take this force FQR like this here. Okay, I will take FPR like this here. Okay, so now I have to find out FQR. Right, and we need to find out the angle between the forces. So here you don't even need to apply sine law, right? Because directly you can find out the answer. Okay, so if you simply resolve the forces just after seeing it, just have a look at this problem and you can simply just resolve the forces, right? How you are going to resolve the forces? Because this R is perpendicular, FQR is perpendicular. So this FPR will be having two components, one component here and one component this one. So this FPR is having one component in the direction of FQR and one component in the direction of R, right? So we don't have to find out R, right? We have to find out only FQR. So what we are going to do now, sigma Fx is equal to 0 at the point R, right? So this is point R, and at this point R we are going to find out all the forces which are in x direction only, right? So one is FQR, other one is the component of FPR in FQR, right? So one is FQR, other one is component of FPR in FQR. So if you want to find out component, then you need to find out this angle theta, right? And this angle is equal to 30 degree from the diagram. Okay, so sigma Fx is equal to 0, FQR plus so here theta is equal to 30 degree and we have to just find out FQR, right? So FQR, we have to do sigma Fx is equal to 0, FQR plus FPR cos 30 should be equal to 0, right? Why? Because all the forces in x direction, sum of all the forces in x direction should be equal to 0, right? So here we already know FPR, this one, right? So FPR and FQR, FPR and RP both will be same, okay? And direction we have already changed. Here you can see direction of FPR is downward direction, but this one we calculated for upward direction. So already we have changed the direction here, right? So again we don't have to change the direction by putting minus sign. Okay, I have made free body diagram of this point R. At this point R, reaction is R. Force because of QR link will be FQR, and force because of PR link will be FPR, right? So here we are going to simply resolve the forces, right? So what we are going to do, we will take component of FPR in this direction, that will be FPR sin theta, and one component of FPR in x direction, that will be FPR cos theta. Theta is 30 degrees, from there we can find, right? So FPR cos 30 will be equal to FQR, right? How? Because sigma Fx should be 0 at the point R, right? So at the point R, sigma Fx is equal to 0. So then only this point R will remain in equilibrium. If it is not in equilibrium, it will keep on moving, right? So if it is in equilibrium, it will be static here, right? So sigma Fx is equal to 0. In x direction, we have only two forces. One is FQR, other one is FPR cos 30. So FQR plus FPR cos 30 will be equal to 0, right? So from here we can find out FQR directly, that is the answer. That's what they are asking in question, and FPR we can put from here, right? F sin 135 divided by sin 105. So this expression is FPR into cos 30, right? So what I did, I took this thing in RHS, so 1 minus sign will come, right? So FQR is equal to minus F1 sin 135 into cos 30 divided by sin 105. When you solve it, what you are going to find? 0.63 F. Minus 0.63 F. Okay, so this will be the answer. So what this minus sign denotes? Minus sign denotes that FQR is not acting toward this direction. It is acting in reverse direction, right? So FQR is not acting here. It is acting in reverse direction at this point. Okay. So now you can see the answer. 0.63 F. That will be the answer, right? Okay, so there were 4 options. Out of 4 options, this will be the answer, right? That's how we are going to solve a truss problem with the help of method of joint method, right? Now let us move to another method, that is method of section. Okay, the method of section. So if a problem is a very big problem, right, like this, as you can see there are many links and it is somewhat complicated. In that type of problem only we are going to use method of section, and sometime we are going to use method of section connected with method of joints. So both the methods we are going to use in a single problem, then only we will be able to solve the problem in very fast manner, right? If you are going to use only one method, no, you will be losing your time, right? So you have to use both the methods and you have to find out a method which will solve the problem very fast. So in GATE exam paper you have to solve a problem within 2 to 3 minutes, right? You cannot spend more time in that, right? So that's why you have to take both the methods, intermix them, and need to find out which method is very fast. And in some problems you have to use both the methods together, right? Both the methods together you have to use in some problems, right? So these are the steps, method of sections. So suppose this is a problem we are having and we have to find out, suppose reaction at this point, right? Or suppose we have to find out a force here, force in this section, P, suppose A, B, and this is C, suppose. So we have to find out force in BC section. So what we are going to do here, we will make a section here, right? We will cut this part, we will cut this whole structure into 2, right? So an imaginary cut is made through the framework. It should not pass through more than 3 members, and whole framework should be cut into only 2 parts. So we are going to cut this whole framework in 2 parts, lefter one and righter one. Okay. So one more thing, it should not pass through more than 3 members. So as you can see, it is passing through only 3 members. So this section is passing through 1, 2 and 3, only 3 members, not more than 3. Then it will be very tough to solve this problem, right? Second step is the equilibrium of this part of the structure is considered through a free body diagram. So after taking this part out, after cutting the section, taking this part out, you have to make free body diagram of that, right? Now resolve forces and take moments about any point and solve, right? So after that, as usual, we are going to resolve the forces, we are going to apply mechanics equations, and we are going to solve the problem. Okay, again, no more than 3 unknown forces can be determined through any cut section. Why we cannot find out more than 3 forces? As you can see, because we are cutting only 3 members, right? We are cutting this whole framework which is passing through only 3 members, 1, 2 and 3. So in 3 members there will be 3 unknown forces. So that's why you cannot find out more than 3. Only 3 you can find out, right? So now let us move and we will solve one problem, right? Determine the internal force in link CB in the pin joint truss of figure as shown in figure, right? So as you can see here, both these A and B, A and suppose this one is Q, suppose, right? This A and Q, these 2 points are simply supported. Why? Because we are having only rollers here. So if you have rollers, it cannot have force in y direction. It cannot have force like this, right? That's why only one reaction R1, right? And here only one reaction R2, right? Okay, so now we have to solve this problem, and first because this is looking very complicated, and they are asking force in the link CB. They are asking to find out the force in this link. So this link is nowhere connected with A and B, right? This link is nowhere connected with these forces. So what we simply do, we'll just cut this section. We'll cut the framework into 2. So we'll make a cut like this here, and we'll take this out. Okay, then we are going to analyze that part. Okay. So as you can see here, I have done the same. I have cut this part into 2, right, and then made free body diagram. So how I made this free body diagram, I am going to make this free body diagram again for you, right. So take this part out, left part. So when you take left part out, so this won't come, right. Okay, so it will be like this. I have cut it from here, right. This is point B where some force is acting, that is 4 kN, right. Here we are having this R1. So this R1 actually we have to find out. So in the problem it is given 5.75 and 6.25, but actually not in the problem. Okay. So this first we have to find out R1 and R2 only. Then only we can solve this problem. In the solution already I have given the value 5.75 and 6.25, but that also we have to find, right. Here already it is found. Okay. So we can assume that here these forces are acting. F, suppose that is Q, this is P, right. It is called RP. This force is FBP, and this force is, so this point is C, right, FBC. As you can see here, we are having only 3 forces, 1, 2, 3, right, and R1 is unknown, R1 is known, right, and the one force 4 kN is also known, right. So now we have to analyze this cut section and we have to find out the force, right. Okay, so how we are going to solve it? First we need to find out all the angles, 30, right. This angle is 30. So all the distance is also given 2 meter, 2 meter, 2 meter, 2 meter, right. So let me make this diagram little bigger, then it will be little clear, right. Okay. This angle is 30. Up to here it is only 2, right. This is A. Here we are having force as 4 kN. FA, FBC. So we have already cut it from here, right. So this point is P. So this force will be FAP. This point is B. Okay. So now we need to find out what we have to find out, FBP, right. Let us see in the question it is FCB in this link. Okay, sorry, this point is C, right. This point is C. So in place of P I will put C, right, and this point is So it is not given, so we can assume it as P, right. So we have to find out this thing, FBC. Okay, how do we find out? So one method is simple, that is we have to take moments. Okay, if we take a moment about a common point from which all the forces are passing, right, in that way we can find out the force, right. So we need to see the problem properly and then only we can solve it. So here in our case we can take moment only about a point A, right. Why I want to take moment about point A? Because I don't want to find out more unknowns, right. So this force FBP is passing through the point A, right. With that this R is also passing through the point A, right. FAC also passing through the point A. So all these three forces are passing through the point A, and all these three forces are unknowns, and they are unknowns, but we don't have to find out, because in the question they are not asking either FAC, FBP or reaction R, right. They are not asking these things. So what they are asking, FBC, and FBC is not passing through point A. Same way 4 kilonewton force is not passing through point A. So if we take moment about point A, then we can easily find out FBC, right. Why we can easily find out FBC? Because all the forces are passing through point A, so their moment will be 0, right. What is the formula of moment? R into R cross F. If R is 0 from the point, this whole thing will be 0, right. So that's why we are going to make this problem very easy, even though it is looking very tough, but when we solve it properly, we can easily solve it in very easy manner, right. Okay, so I will take moment about point A. So if you want to take moment about point A, what you have to do, first thing, you have to find out distance from point A to this link BC. Okay, and that distance will be perpendicular distance, right. So what I am going to do, I will draw a perpendicular. I will just extend this line, okay, and I will draw a perpendicular, right. So this distance multiplied by FBC will be the moment of FBC, right. Okay, this distance, how we are going to find out? It is very easy, right. How to find out this angle? Because we already know this 2 meters, right. From here to here, suppose this point is C dash, we already know this length, AC dash. Okay, so AC, first we will find out AB, right, from here to here, then we are going to find out AA dash, right, the perpendicular. So what is AB? How to find out AB? We can simply use cosine law. What is cosine law? AC dash, that is 2 meters, divided by AB. It should be equal to, obviously, cos theta. This theta is 30, right. Okay, from here we can find out AB. So what we will find out AB as? AB is equal to AC dash is 2 meters divided by cos 30. What is the cos 30? So anyway, we will just put cos 30. We won't put the value root 3 by 2. We will simply put cos 30, right. So we got this. AB is equal to 2 by cos 30. I will just rub it off to save the space. Okay, 2 by cos 30. Now from AB we have to find out AA dash, right. So to find out AA dash, we need to know this angle, right. And what will be this angle? To find out this angle, first we need to have angles, this angle, right. So this angle will come, if you know how much is this angle, then we can find out. This angle is 30 degree. If you make a straight line here, this will become 30 degree, right. If this is 30 degree and this angle will be equal to this angle, right, 30 degree. So we can find out this angle will be 60. Okay, if this angle is 60, this will become 30. Okay, so how I found out this angle 30? I know this angle 30. Okay, so from the some mathematical relations, we can say that this angle will be 30. Okay. Now I have to find out this angle. This angle will be equal to angle, this angle, right, 30. Okay. So this will be 30, this will be 30, total it will become 60, right. And whatever this angle will be there, the opposite to angle will be same, right, 60, right. So if this is 60, we have this A dash and B as a right angle triangle, and from this right angle triangle we can find out this angle as 30, right. Okay, so finally we found out this angle 30. So AB cos 30, A dash will be AB cos 30, right. From this right angle triangle we can say. Okay, so AB is equal to 2 by cos 30. So A dash will become equal to 2. If you solve these two problems, these two equations, you can find out A dash as 2. So finally we found out the value of A dash from here to here, that is 2. Okay, so I will just rub it off. Okay, this is 2, and we 2 multiplied by FBC will be the moment because of the force BC, right. So we have this force F also, 4 also, right. So moment because of force F, 4 kilonewton force will be equal to 4 into the distance, perpendicular distance. Okay, perpendicular distance from this force is 2 meter only, right. So now we are going to take moment about the point A. Moment about point A. Summation of moment about point A should be 0. So first we will take the force FBC. FBC into 2 plus FBC is trying to rotate it in clockwise direction. We just assume that it is positive, right. FBC into 2, and 4 kilonewton also trying to rotate this in clockwise direction. Okay, force is acting in downward direction. 4 into perpendicular distance is 2, right. This should be equal to 0. So from this equation directly we can find out FBC. So what FBC will come? Minus 4 kilonewton, right. So this FBC will not act in this direction, it will be in upward direction. So that will be our answer. So that's what they are asking, internal force in link CV, right. This FBC only we have to find out, that is minus 4 kilonewton. So that is our answer. Okay. So even though we do not have to do a lot of calculation. So calculation was not more, it was most of an algebraic thing. If you know the algebra, then you can easily solve it. Again, it is 11th class mathematics, right. It has nothing to do with engineering, right. Actually, for engineering, you can say it is only a truss. That comes, from engineering. But the mathematical formulation is, everything is 11th class or even 9th class thing. It is just an algebraic thing I am doing here. And with the help of that, I have found out the answer. FBC is equal to minus 4 kilonewton, that is the answer, right. So that's how we are going to solve method of section, with the help of method of section. Okay. So there are some special cases. So first one is if two members are connected at a joint and both members are non-collinear, as well as no external force acting at joint, then forces in both the members will be 0. So I will explain you this by making one simple truss. Okay, suppose we are having this truss and we are having support only at these 2 points. We don't have any support at this point. So what it says, if two members are connected at a joint, so this member and this member, they are connected at this joint and both members are non-collinear. Obviously these two members are not collinear, right. As well as no external force acting at the joint. Obviously we cannot see any external joint that is acting here, right. There is no external force. Okay. Then forces in both the members will be 0. So now the forces in this member and this member, it will be 0, right. So here also F is equal to 0 and here also F is equal to 0. So meaning is that there is no need to even draw these two forces. So this problem is equivalent to a problem like this, right? So this problem and the previous problem both were same. There is no difference between them, right? So that is the meaning of this special case. Now special case is 2. 2 is if 3 members are connected at a joint in such a way that 2 members are collinear and no external force acting at the joint, then force in third member will be 0. So again we will see this example. In this example you can see this is one link, this is another link, and this is another link. So what they say, if 3 members means 1, 2 and 3, right, connected at a joint in such a way that 2 members are collinear. So this one, okay, this one and this one, they are 2 collinear members, right, and no external force acting at the joint. So anywhere there is no external force at this joint, there is no external force, right, at this joint you can see here, there is no external force. Then force in third member will be 0. Then force in this member, third member, will be equal to 0. So whether you are having this member or not, it doesn't matter. This member has no effect on the truss itself, right? So whether you have this member here or whether you don't have this member, it has no effect on the analysis and the organization of the truss, right? It has no effect. That it want to say, right? Now we will solve one problem. That is IAS 1998, 1998, this problem, same problem came, right? And what they are asking, force in the same member, right? So if you mugged up that previous special case and if you do some mistake, then you will directly write that force in this section will be 0, right? Suppose there is a fifth option, 0 kilonewton. What you will going to do mistake? You will directly write that force there is 0. But in this case, you have to apply that special case 2 in proper manner, right? So what special case 2 says? What special case 2 says? Force in third member will be 0 if 3 members are connected at a joint in such a way that 2 members are collinear and no external force, right? But here you can see there is external force 8 kilonewton. So one external force is acting here, right? So what will happen? Now you have to make free body diagram of this joint. So what you do, this you take out this joint outside. Okay. Now you make free body diagram of this joint. One force is already known. Other forces we don't know, right? Suppose because of this joint, this force is acting unknown. Suppose F1. One force is acting F2 because of this joint, this member, and one force will be because of a vertical member, F3. So directly we can see that F1 will be equal to F2. When we resolve the forces, F1 will become equal to F2 and F3 will become equal to 8 kilonewton. And we directly found out the answer, that is 8 kilonewton, right? So that's why in this case we do not have 0 as answer, we have answer as 8 kilonewton. Okay. So that's how we can even easily solve IAS problems also. In IAS normally they are asking very conceptual question in which you don't have to don't have to solve many things, just you have to apply your brain and you have to solve it. Okay. So let us move to next chapter now. We will be solving more numericals of trusses after completing the theory part, right? These 2 numericals or 3 numericals I took just to explain the theory part, right? Now we will move to next chapter, that is friction. So again one of the most important topic, friction, because you are going to this friction topic in dynamics of machine, right? There is a third unit or fourth unit, friction. Okay, again in dynamics of machine you will have friction as a unit. Okay. So that is, this is very important for dynamics of machine, right? If you know friction, then only you can solve those problems, right? So mostly you will not get problem directly from this chapter. Obviously this chapter is going to help in dynamics of machine. If you are lucky, then only you will get to know some problem from this chapter. But anyway, it is one of the most important topic, right? So what is friction? Friction is nothing but, as you can see this diagram here, one block of weight 100 Newton is resting at one surface, and this surface, as you can see, it is not a plane surface, right? This surface is having curvature, right? So almost all the surfaces available in the nature are having curvature. No surface is perfectly straight, right? Perfectly plane, you cannot find any surface that is perfectly plane. So whenever you keep any block over the surface, what happen? Wherever this block is touching the surface, it will make some bonds. So those bonds are temporary in nature, not like perfect bond, but even then these bonds, suppose at this point, and at this point, it will make a temporary bond, okay? And because of that temporary bond, it is very tough to move that block, okay? It is very tough to move this block in any direction, right? And these temporary bonds creates friction. So as you can see, friction doesn't depend upon the area, right? It depends only upon the points, right? So that's what it is. So this question in many times in GATE or many exams they are asking, friction depends upon area or not. So obviously you will write it doesn't depend upon area, right? It depends upon the connection, the interbond between these points, temporary interbond, right? So in this block, if you apply some force or resistance, you will receive, okay? Friction force will be in reverse direction, right? If you apply force F in positive x direction, the frictional force will be in negative x direction, right? So frictional force is a force that will always try to oppose the applied force, right? It will always try to oppose the movement of the block, right? If some block is moving, suppose this pen, so friction force between my pen and my palm always try to oppose this movement, right? So this friction force always try to oppose the movement of the block, right? In that way you can understand. So normally friction is of two types. One is static friction, other one is kinetic or dynamic friction, okay? So static friction is the friction when the body is at rest, okay? When the body is at rest, that time only you will experience static friction, okay? If the body is moving, that time you will experience kinetic or dynamic friction. And normally static friction is more than kinetic friction. So in this diagram, in this curve, you can see curve between friction resistance in Newton and applied force F in Newton. So applied force is capital F and frictional resistance is small f. This is a curve between them. So as we start increasing this force F. So initially suppose this force was 0, right? At that point of time there will not be any frictional force, right? Because you are not applying any force. And what type of friction, right? Suppose you are keep on increasing it. Suppose it become 1 kilonewton, right? So suppose it becomes 1 kilonewton here, you will see some resistance, okay? Even if force is 1 kilonewton, this block will not move, right? Why this block is not moving even though you are applying some force? Because this block is in static friction. It is still in static friction mode, right? So even if F is 1 kilonewton, frictional resistance also will be equal to 1 kilonewton, right? So this angle here is 45 degree. So whatever force you are applying before static friction, before kinematic friction, the frictional force will be equal to external applied force, right? So at this point, the applied force is suppose 1 kilonewton, then friction force will be 1 kilonewton. So whatever force you are applying, frictional force is causing a resistance. That is the reason this body is in equilibrium, right? So why this body is in equilibrium? Because suppose you are applying 1 kilonewton force and it is not moving, then there must be a frictional force of equal magnitude and reverse direction, right? So up to static friction. So this will carry on, you keep on increasing external force, and up to static friction, this point your block will not move. Okay, it is static, it is not moving, but up to this threshold limit. When this threshold limit will come, when this threshold limit will be achieved, that time we will have maximum frictional force, right? After that, the frictional force start decreasing. Okay, the reason is, after that what will happen, these bonds, it will be broken. Okay, so when we put more force, these bonds is going to be broken. Okay, it will break, and after, when the bonds will be broken, this body starts to move. Okay, this body will starts to move in forward x direction, right? As you can see here, after threshold limit, the friction is decreasing and then it is becoming constant, right? So after threshold limit, friction normally remains constant, right? So here you can see static friction force just matches to the applied force. At this point, up to here, static friction force will be equal to applied force. After that, after motion starts, frictional resistance generally decreases, the kinetic friction coefficient, okay, that is less. Okay, and the kinetic friction resistance is about constant for some range of speed. So even though our body is moving, the kinetic friction will be constant. It won't change, right? So here you can see these two formulas. So friction force is equal to mu into n, that we are going to see in next slide. Okay, so once now you have to just understand this diagram, right? And from this diagram, what we found out, the maximum frictional resistance is at this threshold limit, right? So up to here, the static frictional force, okay, that we will see in next slide now. Okay, so frictional force is independent of contacting surface, that I already told you, and kinetic friction force is independent of velocity at high mid degrees. Okay. So limiting condition. So this limiting condition is nothing but this threshold value. Okay. In the previous case, this threshold value is called limiting condition. Okay, at limiting condition or after it, friction force is proportional to the normal force. Okay. So what happens? I will make the diagram again. So now I am talking about the area of this way. Before this, the friction force, suppose small f, is equal to the force applied. After this, what will happen? The friction force is proportional to the n. Okay. So that's what it is. What is n? N is the normal force. Normal force between this block and the surface. And that will be equal to, mostly equal to mg, weight of the block. Right. So friction force is proportional to n. So when you remove this proportional sign, you will find one constant mu, and friction force will be equal to mu n. Right. So mu is coefficient of friction. Right. So I will go back to the previous slide. So here you will see, in this diagram, just after this point, or you can say just at this point, we have mu s. What is mu s? Mu s is friction coefficient for static case. Okay, if body is static and it is having maximum load, right, at that time frictional resistance will be mu s, that is static frictional coefficient, right. Just after that, this mu s will decrease and it will become mu k. What is k? Kinetic. So when the body is moving, mu s will decrease to mu k. Okay, so mu s is frictional resistance for the static body and mu k is frictional resistance for a moving body, right. So that's how we can understand it. Okay, so here we can see Now we have to see what is angle of friction. Okay, so there is a block resting over a surface. So what happens? This is a normal force because of this force. So I will try to just move this normal force here. Only for representation I will make this normal force here. Right. Okay. And this is external force. Okay. So initially this external force is 0. So nothing will happen. Now we are keep on increasing this force. Right. 1, 2, 3, 4. Right. Up to the limit, up to the threshold value we are going to increase it. So when the external force is 0, we will have friction force is equal to 0. When the external force is 1, we will have frictional force is 1. Okay. So what will happen if this frictional force is 1 here? Okay, 1. Then we can make with the help of parallelogram law, we can find out a resultant force. Okay, so this is a rectangle and we can find out resultant of this one, that is frictional force, and normal. Okay, okay, this one, right. So this R is nothing but a resultant of normal and frictional force. Okay, and this angle is called angle of friction at this point of time. Okay, so when the threshold value will reach, okay, so I will rub it off. This is n. When the threshold value, suppose threshold value is 4. Okay, suppose when the external force is equal to 4, we will get threshold value. After that, this block is start to move, right. So when the threshold value will reach, then suppose we have this friction force that is obviously equal to 4, right. And now we are going to make again this parallelogram. Okay, again this rectangle, and with the help of this rectangle we will find out resultant force. So this is a resultant reaction between our body and the surface R. Okay, so in this case now, in this case only, this angle or not alpha, phi, right, this phi angle is called angle of friction, right. Now only this angle is called friction, angle of friction at the threshold time, right, or after the threshold time, right. So angle of friction is equal to phi, and if you want to find out this angle of friction, suppose tan phi. So what is the value of tan phi? Fr divided by n, right. Okay, so from here we can say that this tan theta is equal to coefficient of friction, mu, right. So this Fr will become mu into n, and that is the same definition we had here. Okay, right. So what we find that tan phi is equal to tan inverse mu. So tan phi is equal to mu, phi will become tan inverse mu. So the angle of friction is equal to tan inverse mu. Meaning is that angle of friction depends upon what we call coefficient of friction, right. So that is the main thing. If they will ask angle of friction, you have to do only one thing. Just take the value of mu, suppose 3.4, suppose mu is 3.4, just take tan inverse and find the answer, right. Okay, then let us move to next slide. Okay, so now cone of friction. So what happens? We have this diagram here, resultant of Fc and R. This is the resultant force. This is not alpha, it is phi, right. So what happens if suppose we are having a block and we are applying the force, suppose we have this block here, right. So suppose we are applying this force here, okay, it will try to move in positive x direction. Suppose if we are trying to apply force in reverse direction, so in this direction, right, it will try to move in backward direction, right. Suppose we are going to apply force in this direction, it will try to move in positive z direction, right. So in that way, if you try to move the block in all the direction, right, okay, in that case all the reaction force, this reaction force, what will happen, the reaction force will take a cone shape, right. So when you are applying force in this direction, right, so the reaction force will be in this direction, okay. When you are applying force in this direction, reaction force will be in this direction, right, in this direction. So when you, suppose you apply this force in this direction, okay, suppose you are applying the force in this direction, in that case resultant force will come in this direction. And suppose you are just moving it, this applied force is just moving it around, okay. In that case what happens, this reaction force will make a cone, right, that you can see in next slide. This reaction force will make a cone, and this cone is called cone of friction. This cone is called cone of friction, right. So that is only for better understanding. So where we are using this cone of friction, there are many machines available in the industry that are working on vibration, right. So we have to set the friction amount between the particle and the surface of that machine, right. When you will set the friction amount between the particle and the surface, that time what will happen, you have to keep the particle, you have to keep the friction in this cone only, okay. When you are going to modeling that particle and surface contact, that time what you have to do, you have to keep that force between this cone, a specific cone, right. So that is the physical significance of cone of friction. But in objective questions you are not going to find anything use of this cone of friction. Okay, finally now we will see angle of repose. Suppose we are having this surface here and one block is here, right. Now what we start rotating this surface, okay. We will start rotating this surface like this, okay. Initially the surface was here, then we start rotating the surface, okay, and up to some point what happens, this block will not fall down, right. This block is not going to fall down up to some extent. But what happens, so what happens when you try to rotate this surface up to some value, after that only this block will start to move out, right. Then only this block will start to slip, okay. That position is called position of repose, and the angle at that point is called angle of repose, right. And again the angle of repose will be equal to your friction angle, and that will be equal to tan inverse mu, right. So this formula you can remember always, right. Mu is coefficient of friction, tan inverse of coefficient of friction will be equal to angle of repose as well as friction angle, right. So that you have to always remember, right. So this question directly may come in objective questions, right. And pull. So normally you must have seen that a block, sometimes it is very easy to push the block, but sometimes it is very tough to push the block then pull in, right. So all these things depends upon the angle of the force, right. Suppose I am having this block here and I will try to push it, okay. I will just go to, suppose I have this block and I will try to push it that way, right. And suppose I will try to pull it, okay. So when I will try to pull it, it will be very easy to pull, right. And if I try to push it, it will be little tougher. As you can see, even this bag also, if you can move it, okay. Any block if you try to push like this, it will be very tough, right. any block, if you like try to pull like this, it will be much easier, right? Okay, so how this happens and why this happens, that we are going to see now, right? So push and pull, first thing is that case 1, applied force is horizontal. So when the applied force is horizontal, whether you are pulling it or pushing it, it doesn't matter. In both the case, force will be same and the effort you are going to apply will be same, right? Why? Because friction force will be equal, right? Friction force will be equal to mu n, and the normal force is always constant. It is not changing, right? So the friction force is same, applied force is same, the applied effort will be same. It won't change, right? Okay, so first case we have seen already in push and pull. First case was we are having force in horizontal direction, right? So there will not be any effect of force pull and pull on the effort, right? In case 2, applied force makes an angle theta downward with the horizontal, right? So suppose you are pulling like this or you are pushing like that. Okay, so first let us take the first one. So what will happen when you pull like this? In that case your normal force will change. Why your normal force is changing? Because you are applying force in downward direction. So what will happen, this force, pull force, will have two components, one in y direction, other one in x direction. So in x direction the component will be f cos theta, and in y direction the component will be f sin theta, right? So in y direction this f sin theta combined with mg, okay, causes normal force. So now this normal force will be equal to f sin theta plus mg. Okay, so as you can see here, your normal force is increased by f sin theta. Previously this was only mg, now it is f sin theta plus mg, right? So what you have to do now, you have to find out frictional force. And what is the frictional force? Equal to mu into normal. So what is normal? F sin theta plus mg. So obviously when you are pulling a block like this, the friction force is increasing. Why? Because you are adding one more term, f sin theta. So if friction force will increase, you have to apply more effort. Okay, so that is the reason. In this case, pulling will cause more problem, right? Pulling will cause more effort to be applied on the block to move it, right? Now let us go to this second one. Here we are pushing it, right? So when we push it, you can see, as you can see here, this F push will have one component in x direction and other component in y direction. In x direction it will have f cos theta, in y direction it will have f sin theta. Okay. So in this case normal will become, one is mg, right? One is mg, that is downward, but this f sin theta is upward. Okay, as you can see here, this f sin theta is upward. So what will happen, total normal force will become mg minus f sin theta. Okay, so as you can see here, normal force is decreasing. If the normal force is decreased, friction force will also decrease, right? Mu into normal force. Normal force is mg minus f sin theta, right? So this friction force is decreasing. Okay, so that's why in this case pushing a block in upward direction like this will make it more easier. Okay, effort will be much lesser. Okay, and we can easily move the block. Okay, so now let us move to third case. So in third case, applied force makes an angle theta upward with the horizontal. Okay, so in third case what happens, as you can see here, applied force, pull force is making an angle theta, right? So again we will analyze this problem, and first we will find out the x direction component, then we will find out the y direction component. So y direction component will be f sin theta, right? So again, like the previous case, normal will become mg, that is downward, minus f sin theta, right? Mg minus f sin theta means it is very less, right? It is decreasing, it is lesser than mg. So if the normal force is decreased, then what you can say, friction force will be equal to mu into mg minus f sin theta. So this friction force is decreasing, right? So if friction force is decreasing, the pulling force will also decrease because friction is less. Okay. So from this equation we can find out pulling force also, right? So what is the pulling force? You just make it equal to f cos theta, and when you solve this equation you will find out f pull. This f is nothing but pull, right? This is also f pull. Pulling force equal to mu mg by cos theta plus mu sin theta, right? So this will be the expression. So in this case, f push, you are pushing the block downward. Okay. So when you are pushing the block downward, you can see that it is making angle theta, and again we are going to resolve the forces in x and y direction. So in x direction it will be f cos theta, in y direction it will be f sin theta. So now again the normal force will become mg plus f sin theta. Mg is downward direction, f sin theta is downward direction, right? So normal force is increasing means your friction force will increase, right? That's why it is very hard to push the block. Again, if you solve it the previous way, you can find out pushing force as mu mg by cos theta minus mu sin theta. So as you can compare these both equations, here we are having minus sign, here we are having positive sign. So positive sign make denominator as more, right? So if denominator is more, our f pull will be less. Negative sign makes denominator less. So if denominator is less, f push will be more, right? That's why pulling will be lesser than pushing, right? So pulling force will be minimum when angle theta is equal to angle of friction. So one more thing, when you make this theta angle equal to angle of friction or angle of repose or whatever, or tan inverse mu, that time pulling force will be minimum, right? Already pulling force is minimum than pushing force, but if you want to reduce it totally, then you have to make this angle equal to tan inverse mu, right? Mu is coefficient of friction, right? Now let us solve one example. So match the list 1 with list 2. So what is static friction? So we have to match list 1 topics: static friction, dynamic friction, solid friction and angle of friction with the list 2. So first one is angle between the normal reaction and the resultant of force of friction and normal reaction. So what it will be? It will be angle of repose, right? Angle of friction, right? It will be equal to angle of friction d. So d will match 1. Here you can see d is matching 1 in d, this one and this one, right? d1, d1. Okay. So second one is the force of friction developed between two bodies at rest. So that is equal to static friction, right? The force of friction developed between two bodies at rest is equal to static friction because body is at rest, right? So we have to see c is equal to 2, c is equal to 4. So this will be the answer, right? This will not be the answer. Okay, third one, let us see the force of friction between two bodies in motion. If two bodies are in motion, the force of friction will be, as you can see, B is equal to 3, right? So this will be dynamic friction. So friction between dry surface which are not lubricated is solid friction. Finished. Okay, so that's how we can solve this problem. So this is, I think, enough for today. Tomorrow we are going to see some more numericals in friction, and then we will move to another topic. So another topic is centroid, center of mass. After that we are going to study virtual force, right? So you have to do the quiz that is already been posted in Moodle. 10 questions are already posted in Moodle. that you have to solve by tomorrow. I think this is enough for today. Tomorrow we are going to solve some more numericals in friction. After that we are going to start center of mass, center of gravity and centroid. After that we will start virtual work. So I have already posted Moodle quiz in the Moodle link. So there are around 10 to 15 questions. Please solve it by tomorrow and submit it. You can ask your queries in this YouTube comments also or in Moodle too. So please ask your queries. I will be always happy to give the answer. Thank you all.